Joining us now, of course, she's an Olympian, a gold medalist. She's done it all with USA Softball. Of course, the head coach at Liberty. She's done a lot there as well. One of my favorite people who I'll get to see in person this year. I speak of Dot Richardson joining us here on In the Circle. How you doing?
Fantastic, Eric. Happy New Year to you, everybody. God is so good. Look forward to seeing you in person. I'm assuming that's going to be the UCF game.
You know me too well. I think that's our tradition there. Valentine's. I figured you just scheduled that Valentine's game against UCF just to see me, but that's just me. My thoughts there.
Absolutely. I love that thought.
It has nothing to do with the fact Orlando's like your home town there. But let's talk about, before we talk about this year's team, I want you to give me your thoughts on last year when you reflected on last season. You were the team, you were the program, and I remember we covered the LA Regional. You got to eliminate UCLA. You got yourself into that regional final before, obviously, San Diego State won. But you want a conference, make another push in the NCAA. When you look back at last year, what comes to mind?
First, God is faithful. Uh, when you looked at the season overall, we had some struggles in the very beginning just with personnel and, just trusting the Lord with it, and everything worked out. We also were very limited in the circle. We had one true pitcher, if you would, in Carly Keeney, who carried us a lot of the way. And then we had Paige Bachman, her in the circle that only had one inning, a half inning the year before. And then we had a transfer from Florida Gulf Coast who really was a utility player and did not care to pitch at all. So we only had, three. And you got to have it in the circle. And what was so great about it is the team came together. We're able to make it work with the three pitchers that we had. Big wins, like you said, beating Alabama while we're at Marshall, which was a Montana Fouts event, and then also beating Clemson at home dramatically in the bottom of the seventh inning with a walk-off single, right? And then it was just awesome to beat UCLA, which is in regionals, ranked second in the nation, as you made a comment about uh, why we couldn't get to supers. I have to say first that UCLA has always been a benchmark for me with our team. That's why every year I try to play them, or a majority of years. And we've always had really good games against them. And we had seen them earlier in the year when we went to the Oklahoma tournament in Southern California. And a midweek was against UCLA before we went to Puerto Vallarta to play there. And so we had seen them, and very talented team, as you know, ranked second. So to beat them in regionals was awesome. But I felt we did them a disjustice by not coming out of regionals. And I think the main reason, there were some base running mistakes, but I also think in the circle we needed to have a little bit more that this year we do have, which is great.
What was that like? You obviously played at UCLA. That's like a home to you as well. Just like it was for San Diego State, Stacey Newman. I remember we covered that LA region. I mean, the storylines were plenty. But what was that like to eliminate UCLA? I know at the end you're disappointed you didn't get past that regional, but still to beat UCLA, number two UCLA, stacked UCLA team. I mean, that is still significant, Dot, what your team did there.
It's significant in seeing the growth of Liberty softball and where we're at. To beat UCLA, I mean, strong team. They had a transfer pitcher from Oregon who transferred because she wanted to be in the World Series and knew that UCLA is going to be that team that'll do it. Right? They've always seemed to get there, just because they've always had that talent. But to beat them at UCLA in that big stage on ESPN, I can't tell you how many people, thousands of people, that saw that game. To do it in that big stage shows a big growth in our program and where we're at. And, but to me, it was just competition. And, Kelly and Lisa and Kirk, professionals, after the game, it's not personal, it's professional to say, we're going to give our best, you give your best. And, when that happens and you're on the side with a dramatic slide coming in with R2, right, and a hit to left field. And I sent Rachel Roop, I sent her home because they had just switched out the left fielder. And, she made a good throw, but, Roop had the speed and made a beautiful tag flat to the ground. Um, it was just an awesome game.
You've had a lot of big wins at Liberty. Is that number one right now to date? Right now, today, is that the biggest win?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's
I
pretty
think
bad.
the win that changed the trajectory of our program would have to be the NISC. Um, it's almost like the NIT of basketball, right?
Sure.
Once when we won that tournament, I think it really changed our trajectory or our trajectory because it proved that we could win the championship, a national championship. You follow me?
Yes.
And once when we tasted that victory, it was like, okay, it's postseason NCAA. It was like the belief happened. And so that was a huge win as well. And that was, I think that too was a big turning point. But the Alabama Clemson and then, the UCLA, I ranked that UCLA high because of the environment at UCLA, big regional. Our team had to fly all the way across country, obviously, from, Lynchburg, Virginia to compete in it. And we showed up and it was seen on a huge national stage, with ESPN. So it was definitely, it was a big win.
And you mentioned pitching was a big part of that. And let's move to this year's team. And you mentioned, even teased a little bit, that you like the pitching depth you have this year. So let's talk about that pitching staff. What is it about this pitching staff that you like, and what do you have that has jumped out so far?
Well, all fans of fast pitch softball, and you look at collegiate softball, in order to get to a regional, you have to have a good pitcher in the circle, right? Then to get to supers, you need to have at least two. And you get to the World Series, you got the two. You can get away with one, as you saw with Stanford, for example, Kennedy. Uh, but you have to have it, and you have to have a pitcher that can have strikeouts. If you don't have a lot of strikeouts, then you have to have just a great overall game. You look at offense, defense, all of it together. So as I say that, this year I expect a lot more from Paige Bachman, call her Baki, 6'2", righty, an amazing drop, and she's adding more pitches to her repertoire. The other is we have the Gatorade Player of the Year from Delaware, a lefty, in Kaylin Yoder, and she now is picking up the speed that you're going to need to get to be successful at this level. And then we have the number one uh, Virginia pitcher for next year who was able to graduate early. She's homeschooled and had called me and said, Coach, you mind if I come early? And that is Katie Love. She is the real deal. So those three pitchers right now are very, two of them are very young though. And Paige Bachman she's the only one coming in that has been with our program now. This will be her third season. But her mindset is totally focused on being the best she can be and on winning. And then we're able to complement the youth with the one returning with two transfers. One of them is when you look at Tyler Oob from ULL. She was the fourth pitcher for them, did not see a lot of action, but she is able to join us this year and has a lot to prove. And I think she has a high upside and she's looking good every day, getting better and better. And then we have Escobar and E. Escobar. Um, you know, she was the one who actually beat us in our ASUN conference tournament. She went to North Alabama and she's seeking what Liberty has to offer, with the environment that we provide. And she is so excited. She got into the nursing program as well. So she was able to handle us last year. And so we're expecting big things from her too. So we have 5 pitchers that are legit, getting better and better. 2 of them very young, but I think with the maturity around them, they're going to mature themselves quickly. And we got a tough schedule this year, and I believe they're excited about it, and I believe they can get it done.
Do you envision it being by committee, or do you see one or two of those pitchers maybe establishing themselves as maybe the bulk of the staff their innings? How do you envision this? Is that one of the things you're looking forward to playing out as the season gets going, or do you have an idea how you think this staff will work?
Well, right now I look at it as pitching by committee because they're all different, right? However, I would love to see 2 or 3 of them step up and be able to go an entirety of a game against top, 20 teams in the country, right? But when you look at the offense that's around there, I think it's wise. I'm going to take pitchers as long as they can go, but when a ball is hit hard, second or third time through the lineup by a couple of hitters back to back, then it's going to be time to have a different look. And we have quite a bit of different look, Eric. It's like from a lefty, to big kid, to someone who can throw every pitch with tight spins, just to being able to control the changeup. It's there's a lot of different looks that we're going to be able to offer, and it's just a matter of getting them all prepared, which we are now, with the mental toughness that's needed to get to the World Series.
Offensively, you always have players that seem to break out when, that kind of under the radar, and then they have that breakout year and they're like, whoa, they make a name for themselves. How do you see this offense this year? You got some returners back, but you got some new faces also blending in there, particularly. So how do you envision, what do you see from this offense?
Well, I'm telling you, talk is cheap, right? But I'm telling you what I see now and what I can envision. We have got power combined with some speed, but not, I'm telling you, like real speed. If you're a 2-5 to first base, that's fast. So we've got 2-2-5s, a 2-6. We've got a couple 2-8s. So it's one thing to have that power, but also speed where you're not having to, take them in and out with pinch runners, right? So I can tell you that falling short in regionals last year, our starting lineup, they all are back with the exception of our catcher. And yet the catcher, the 2 catchers that we have, one played first last year. And so both of them have experience and they've tasted it to be so close. I have never had a team to this date that works so much on their own in volunteer time, that are strengthening their visualization, their mental part of the game, and the determination they know that is needed, but yet feeling so relaxed in the batter's box. Coach Sammy Fagan is doing a fantastic job offensively, as the hitting coach. She works with catchers as well. Just been doing a fantastic job, and she, helps with the outfield. But uh, our hitters, you're going to be excited to see them. When I look at the lineup, I mean, Rachel Roop is coming back. Mary Claire in center field, she's just, Rachel's right fielder, and Mary Claire in center field is really dialed in this year as opposed to last year, was kind of in and out. Then you got KK Madre in left field. She's a 2.5, MC's a 2.6, super fast speed, swinging the bats really well. And then you've got Megan Fortner coming back. Just, oh my gosh, that kid can rip the ball. Catching wise, Sierra Kirsten as well as Savannah Jesse, call her Jesser. Oh my gosh, the power of those two, one from the left side, one from the right. Both are right-handed throwers. Then we got our shortstop is back. We didn't have her last year, which kind of messed up, the infield a little bit. And that's Reagan Barrett is back from her injury. She redshirted last year with a medical redshirt. And so really this is only her second year competing, just because of redshirting from Washington and her injury and all that. So she's excited to be healthy and playing short and has gotten so much better and offensively. Then we've got Rachel Crane at third. Oh my gosh. Just her stick, her glove, her leadership, loves defense. Then in the DP position, we have Bryn McManus that you did not see last year. A couple times you did, came up in big games and ripped the ball. This kid is a lumberjack. I mean, she can rip the cover. We've got a lot of players, I'm telling you, Eric, that when they hit the ball, it's like you hear the ball scream, it's like they hurt the ball when they hit it. And that's so much fun to see because they're swinging with freedom, right? They're playing, but again, let's see it in game time. We've got a great schedule. We also have another lefty that stepped up quite a bit offensively. Um, is she Conference USA hitting or top 20 hitting? We will soon see. And that's Haley Dieter, really coming strong with a lot of power. Um, Still needs some tweaking a little bit, but that kid is, hitting the ball hard. And the freshmen right now, I mean, I can talk forever, Eric, on this with personnel, but we have Brooke Roberts. She is leading the NJCAA in home runs. She is with us this year, hits from the left side. Unfortunately, she had some lower back pain and, concern injury wise in the fall. So she has a lot to do to make up for that. We'll see if she's going to be ready. Then, Jemiah and Sierra Gibson are two freshmen that could see a lot of play as well. Um, we lastly, I have to say, our starting second baseman. That's the only if we have defensively right now. Savannah Woodard she's at Alabama transfer, started last year. She had an injury that she played injured last year, and so she had surgery on her ankle, and I'm not sure she's going to be ready in a month. She might need 6 to 8 weeks from now, but let's see. So second base right now is one of the opportunities for competition, but all the other positions seem pretty solidified.
With the players returning on offense that you've talked about and the experience back and the talent, it sounds like in your voice, and you said it, they got to prove it on the field. So let's put that in there. But that being said, just hearing your voice and and known you as long as I have and having you on the show for many years, this sounds like you really like this offense from a depth standpoint, from an experience standpoint, and from a talent standpoint. Is that accurate?
Amen.
Very good. I like that. You mentioned Barrett coming back. How big is that from a defensive standpoint, as well as Jesse? Right, Jesse was had an injury last year, Savannah Jesse there. So having those two in particular back healthy, the impact they will have on this team because you didn't have them. That's the thing that kind of gets lost. You did a lot of great things last year, but you weren't healthy 100% as a roster.
Yeah, and that's why, Eric, I say God is faithful because we ended up 25th in the country. Um, Big wins that we had, but we were not totally healthy. And that's why with Reagan Barrett at short, she solidifies the infield. She's that anchor, right? She's, um, just she knows the game. She loves the game. They all do, but she's so hungry now because she's been denied the opportunities to play. At Washington, elective red shirt. Then she has an injury. She got to play and then an injury again, and she has matured so much. So it's going to solidify our infield. But the other thing is this, that I think she's going to contribute offensively as well. She's one of those players that she goes all out for everything in her life, right? Just goes all out. And she's now been able to mature through this experience, as painful as it's been for her to sit out and things like that. But I think all of that is the test that you go through is your testimony, right? And hers is one where you can see her now just playing with a sense of, calmness, competitiveness, confidence, consistency. And I'm excited about that because she's going to contribute on both sides of the ball. And then, as you mentioned, Savannah Jesse, she is a rock, right? But she needed to learn, and her thumb injury is a medical red shirt for her, and she still needs surgery. Probably she'll have it in the summer. But we're able to get her, splint and things like that to help her catching. But that kid, she's got a gun for an arm, can rip the ball. Now, Eric, our scoreboard is pretty high, pretty much and a little left of center of our field. And I can tell you how many balls have gone over it. It used to be the Amber Bishop was the only one who could do it, right? But now I'm telling you, we've got 5, 6 of our hitters on the team can just put it out over that scoreboard. A lot of them can put it out, but putting it that that high, I'm looking at it now. So you're right. I think we're coming back with more experience. We're coming back with a determination that we're going to get it done. Conference championship, regional supers, get to the World Series is our goal. But our biggest goal is this: let's play the best that we can be to be the best that we can be, and let the chips fall where they may. Postseason, as you know, will the ball be an inch fair for us or an inch foul? But we're going to just keep playing our game.
When I ask you about your staff, as softball obviously has now 3 full-time assistants, the option to do that, which you have. You have the 2 Fagan sisters, obviously, and you got Coach Kirby there. Just talk about that change of having now 3 full-time assistants. How does that change your coaching style, if at all? Do you delegate? What does it allow you to delegate more stuff? How do you now that your staff work with now an extra full-time assistant?
Well, it really comes down to leadership and what your style is. And my style is I have some of the greatest coaches in the game. I mean, from my associate head coach with Casey Fagan Graham. I mean, Casey is passionate about defense, passionate about pitching. She is just, like I don't have to micromanage. I know how they teach. I like what they teach. I give them ownership. I don't micromanage. I oversee. I take team defense, right? She's got individual infield defense. I'm able to observe. I'm watching. I can let her know what I think needs to be focused on or what somebody might need. I'll step in if it gets to the point where I'm needed. And then you've got Sammy Fagan, and Sammy, passionate about offense, passionate about offense, but she'll help and assist defensively with the outfield and catching. And she's just, she is just committed, both of them giving the best that they can and the experience that they have. Casey Fagan Graham, she's Gatorade Player of the Year coming out of the state of Florida, experience in the SEC, just an amazing individual, loves the Lord. I mean, it's just exciting. Same with Sammy Fagan, a professional athlete, SEC experience, professional, athlete that's able to bring that experience. And then we have the young, little more inexperienced, but close enough to the game, college game, that you see in Emily Kirby. And she definitely her focus is pitching. Lefty pitcher for us. 3 years did not accomplish what she knew she could. And her last 2 years, because of COVID, turned it on at the national level. And she's able to bring that experience with her. We also have, as you know, our director of ops, director of player development, and we have a new position, just like baseball does, a director of pitching development in Doug Gillis. And Doug, as you know, has a lot of experience, played, as a pitcher for the United States. And he, for us, is a volunteer position to help our coaches for pitching. So he helps to educate Casey Fagan and Emily Kirby, those two work with the pitchers. So he is able to, help our coaching at the pitching level get better. And I've been really excited about their growth because of him educating them, right, to be the best that they can be for our pitchers. We're very blessed. And I, of course, I take the team offense and defense, and just oversee how we run the program. And, and it's just, I'm living the dream, baby. It's just so much fun, and just helping these girls become the greatest they can be as a young godly woman, and playing for the Lord and not worrying about how the world will want to pull them down or tries to judge them. And when they play with freedom, we know we've done our job.
I'm glad you mentioned the responsibilities that you have, because I was about to say, with that deep of a staff, you could probably have a few innings. You could jump in the booth with me, for a few innings there with some free time. I'm just saying.
Well, I really can. I really can, because I'm very blessed because they are so good. But, coaching, you don't want to strangle, if you would, the gifts that your staff has been given, right? I mean, everyone's gifts are meant to be shared to the world. And if I don't have my staff feeling that they're able to make the difference they want and share the knowledge that they have to impact the lives of these young girls, then I am not a good leader, right? I mean, we all have servant hearts. We care about these young women, and we care more than just their athleticism. And Eric, we have to develop these players, right?
Yeah.
When we get some of these players that transferred, I'm kind of like, have they been taught much? You get freshmen and wonder, are they being taught what they need to be taught in travel ball? But for us, we're going to teach them, right? We're going to make them better. And that's what some of our transfers wanted. They wanted the faith-based, community. They wanted to be a part of conservative, servant heart, God-fearing leadership. And they wanted to build their spiritual growth, but they also wanted to develop their skills more. And I can tell you, I mean, seriously, and it's not to boast, it's just to be truthful, to say that every player that comes here, whether they're a starter or recruited as a pinch runner, get better, right? We invest in them, and that's what they appreciate. And I will never stifle uh, my coaching staff in doing what they're born to do, because that would be very selfish of me, and it would be poor leadership. And they know I love them, I care about them, I trust them. They're invested because they know they have an important role to play.
Let's talk about your 2024 schedule. I'm going to give a shout out to your SID, Joe Carmody, who's one of the best in the business.
You
Uh,
know it. Joe is awesome.
he is well deserving of that mention there, because one of the press releases I look forward to every year is the press release when he announces your schedule. And trust me, I am one of those people that emails him, when is this schedule coming up? And when he comes out, because you do not shy from anybody. You have made it clear you like to schedule anybody, the best and the best, wherever, anywhere, anytime. And you do not disappoint. No different this year. I'm not going to go through the entire schedule because, I mean, it's a podcast. You've got a life. I don't. But you start in Clearwater for the NFCA tournament, where you're going to play the likes of St. John's, Oregon, Clemson, Missouri, Notre Dame. You mentioned you will travel to UCF for a midweek on Valentine's night. Hello. You go to the spring games. You're going to play Illinois, Iowa, and our good friend Coach Gillespie, your mutual friend there. Ohio State's in that field. Penn State's in that field, as I mentioned. You're going to host St. Francis of Pennsylvania, who's one of the better mid-major teams. It's become an NCAA perennial. You also get to host Penn State as well. So you're going to play Penn State, get familiar with them. You go back to Oklahoma. You get to play the Sooners twice at their new stadium, and you play Louisiana. And that's not even mentioning some of the midweeks you've got, including playing Duke. You got Charlotte, all NCAA tournament teams. You've got Virginia, on and on. Virginia Tech. All right, just talk about your non-conference schedule for 2024 version.
Well, also another exciting opportunity is Beth Trina called, and we will be going to play a 3-game series against LSU on our way to the conference tournament for Conference USA at New Mexico State. So I'm excited about the schedule. Every time I start it, I'm like, okay, is this going to be a good schedule? And I think this is a great schedule. And I believe our team is ready for it. That's the one thing. Some people are like, oh, yeah, you can do these tough schedules, but, really, should you be doing it? If you recall, Joe might have shared this with you. There's only a few colleges in the country that have won 40 games or more each season over the past 6 years, excluding the COVID year, right, when we didn't get to play as many games. And we're one of them. So, and it's not like I'm doing a light schedule to say, okay, make sure we win 40. It's like, I want to compete, and I want our team to get ready for competition. You are not going to be a World Series champion if you're not tested, if you're not confident in focusing just on the game and not your opponent or the history of that opponent. We played Oklahoma last year. We lost by 1 run in the 8th inning, international tiebreaker. And the reason we didn't go extra is because, we had a opportunity to run home on a ball and we didn't, when we bunted our kid over and she's at, third base. But, that playing it safe is something that they have to learn is not going to help you win competitive games. And, a bunt, overthrow, you got to make the ordinary plays for an extraordinary things to happen, right? Make the ordinary play and extraordinary things will happen. Our team has to learn that. So to be the best at the best, you have to play the best and prove that you're better. And that's not going to happen if you're not tested. I believe in it. I've seen it. I've lived it in my career, both on and off the field. Um, and that's something that I believe this team is ready. I think they're battle tested. And I know that mentally they're ready for it. They've tasted it a number of times, as you know. We've been in the Tennessee tournament, taking down Tennessee for regionals, right? We're in the Duke, regionals, taking down Georgia. We're the UCLA, taking down UCLA. We're at USC in a regional, took down the Gamecocks, but yet not getting to supers. We're ready for it. We've been tested. And let's see, again, talk is cheap. But I can tell you, I believe in this team and these players. They have trained hard and they need to just keep working hard, but also love the process. And the other thing is just trust the Lord with the gifts he's given them. And if they come together with team unity, we'll be hard to beat.
Thank you for mentioning the LSU series. I don't know how I missed that. That's because maybe I didn't have enough caffeine. But May 3rd through the 5th, you go to Tiger Park to play LSU before you go to Las Cruces for the CUSA tournament. And obviously, this is your first year in Conference USA. What's the biggest adjustment you have to make as far as Conference USA? Is it learning the opponents in the league that maybe you're not as familiar with? What's the biggest adjustment?
Well, one adjustment is there's going to be a lot more flying, right? I mean, we're going to be heading to Texas twice. That's a long trip. Um, the other big adjustment, Eric, and I'll be transparent about it, is only 22 players are able to dress out to compete, right? So in Conference USA, as opposed to ASUN, every player can dress out, but the players that weren't going to play didn't know, when we would select 22 players before at home plate, right, with the coaches meeting, the umpire meeting there. So this way on Conference USA, what they have is 22 players will dress, and the other ones, which we have 27 on our roster, will have to either not travel or be dressed in practice gear or something. That's going to be an adjustment. I mean, when you have a team that's united, they want everyone to feel united, right, and not separated. So that's going to be a challenge for us this year. What would another one be? This is a good one, I think. In the ASUN, you would play a doubleheader, whether 1 game Friday, 2 game Saturday, 1 game Saturday, 2 game Sunday. 2 game Saturday, 1 game Sunday, any combination. Conference USA, it's 1 game a day, 1 game on Friday, 1 game Saturday, 1 game Sunday, inclement weather, then you could play doubleheaders. We love that. In today's world, right, on the TV exposure, the excitement of all of that, which I hope everyone listening knows that college softball is the third most viewed collegiate sport. Football, men's basketball with March Madness, and then you come to softball. So our exposure on ESPN3 and other outlets, I got to share you something hot off the press too, but you have media timeout times, between half innings. So games are going longer, right? So the kids are there, the players are there a long time. So when you do double headers, that wears on them. The challenge is going to be though, now we're flying out on Friday. So school we're flying out on Thursday because we play 1 game on Friday. So missing school too. So our team has been very blessed with high GPAs, but as a coaching staff, I'm going to be cognizant of that, making sure they get their academic enhancement hours in, their studying time, all those different things. So those are going to be some of the adjustments. And this is going to be hot off the press for you, Eric. I just found out yesterday. MLB Network will be covering our game against Missouri at the
Wow.
NFC Off Classic.
Whoa. Hey now.
It'll be a 4 o'clock start. Uh, it'll be publicized. I'm not sure, Joe, if Joe has told you, but
No.
Joe may not have even heard this. I got a call yesterday. So they're finalizing everything. So that'll be awesome. I heard it's going to happen. Uh, and might be letting the cat out of the bag too early, but just let you know that's exciting news. The attention, MLB stepping up, as well as ESPN and and obviously Big Ten Network, and you got all those things going on. A lot of exposure for softball, and these kids are very blessed to have that.
I was not shared of that. So you're breaking news here, and I like this. This is the media side of you coming out of you right here, Dodd. This is the media side. It doesn't let you go. You got to break, scoop a little scoopish there. Wow, that's pretty big. That's awesome. That's good to hear that. Let's. That's pretty good. You mentioned the series, the adjustments there, because obviously the A-Sun, as you mentioned, played maybe a double header and a single game versus just playing 3 single games. Which do you prefer? Do you prefer having 3 single games in 3 days? Do you like having the double? Do you have a preference?
Well, I like the single game just because how long the games are going. In my era, games took an hour and 15 minutes, not a lot of hitting, 1 run games, 2 run games, things like that, depending who we're playing, of course. Um, so double headers I didn't mind that. But when you think about it, the team gets there an hour and a half or 2 hours before the game. So before that, they get together with the athletic trainer if they need them. We usually have a team chapel before. So then once you start your pregame, and then you get into the game with TV and the length between half innings. This year, they're trying to speed it up. Pitchers, instead of 30 seconds, they have only 20 seconds right now.
Yeah.
Once the catcher gets the ball back to the pitcher to deliver the pitch. So there are other things they're trying to speed it up, but the reality is the game's going to be at least 2 hours and 15 minutes, 2:30 sometimes with 2 minute media time. Um, so, and then afterwards they're there. So let's do the math. I mean, you look at the time, they're going to be at the field 5, 6, 7 hours. And so when you play a double header, that's going to add another 2.5 hours. Um, so it's a long day. It's a lot to ask. Uh, so I like the single games. As you know, I like to play teams. The more we see them, I believe the better we get. The more familiar with them, the more familiar with pitchers. So that's why I always kind of think, who will we play postseason? What regional will we be at? Um, and that's how I kind of look at the schedule accordingly. And Conference USA, as you said, this is going to be our first year in the conference. So I looked where the champion went last year, and they went to Alabama. So will this year they go to LSU? Don't know. Will they go to Georgia? You know, um, so it's going to be interesting. And so we're just going to be as prepared as we can to play the top teams. To ourself, I'd love to host. We'll see in the circle if they're able to do it. If the pitchers in the circle were able to make it happen, um, we could improve from where we were last year.
2 more things before we let you go. Obviously, Liberty Athletics has been exploding with success. Men's basketball's had tremendous success. Football just coming off an undefeated season, a conference championship, playing in a New Year's Six bowl in the Fiesta Bowl. What was your reaction to that? And is that something you bring up to your team about what they did as inspiration, perhaps to hey, you could do similar things, like you could get to a World Series, because look at what football just did, getting to a New Year's Six bowl.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I love to just say God is faithful. The university just began with the belief of developing a university that would train champions for Christ, praying over the land, praying over the future. God is faithful. And the establishment of the university for a great education also was that through education of the liberal arts as well as athletics was huge. I'm going to have a player coming in next year who wants to be, I've already had one, a worship leader, right? Singing through music. And athletics is a great avenue. When you look at football, what was able to happen, it was exciting to see. the improvement of the team through the season. Also the performance against one of the top ranked teams. What I will point out to our team is a couple basics of catching passes thrown right at you, right? The basics, the ordinary thing would have made an extraordinary result, right? So when a receiver has a pass and drops it instead of a first down, we have to give the ball over to one of the top offenses in the country. They're going to capitalize, right? So you can't give anything to your opponent. Do the ordinary things. Catch the ball, right? See the ball off your bat. See the ball in your glove. Make the throw you've made a million times. You do the ordinary things, and if a team beats you, they've beaten you because they're better, not because you've given it to them. So I just saw a little bit of that with our football team in that game. I don't think I looked at our football team size wise, everything looked awesome. And it was just a little bit of things when you play those top games. We had 3 drop passes, right? 1 interception and a fumble. Those 5 things can change the outcome of a game. So that is what we learn about. And that's what football is going to take with them too, as they now have tasted it. Think about that. You know, a New Year's Six bowl, right? They've been there, they've experienced that. They recognize what could have made the difference. And they're going to come back. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. You know, bigger, better, faster, stronger, and more determined next year. And we can learn from that, right? In our sport. So we need to take that experience. It can be done. It's been done. And let's do it. And let's learn from the things that made a difference in their game, the outcome. And let's make sure that we learn from those mistakes.
Well, and next year in football, they'll have a 12-team playoff. So if this would have been, if that would have been applied this year, they would have been in the playoff. So that's going to be even extra motivation as well for them. I'll give you another topic that we'll close with that gives you goosebumps, and that's softball in the Olympics. And it's official.
Woo!
Softball will be back in the Olympics 2028 in Los Angeles. Your reaction to that, and what do you think needs to be done between now and then to have a successful softball Olympics in 2028, and I think hopefully then 2032 in Brisbane?
Well, I tell you, it, excuse me, it's come full circle. I'm at UCLA, 1984. The Olympics are being hosted in LA. Softball is not a part of the program. Baseball is an exhibition sport. And the dream of getting into the Olympics for our sport, you know, and the prayers that went out. Then you look at 92 in Barcelona, and we thought softball would be in there, but it wasn't. Baseball, again, is an exhibition sport. And then because of that, we look now at 1996 when softball joined baseball as a full-fledged Olympic sport, medal sport in the Atlanta Games, which I was blessed to be a part of. And then in 2000, and we continued, but the loss getting out of the program, I really thought affected the sport of softball in a big way, just as getting in did affected us in a big way. And I just think that the Olympic dream is now back to reality, right? That young girls can dream about being an Olympian again. But we have to play the political game as well to make sure we stay in. And it used to be like, oh, well, we're not in the Olympics because we win the gold medal all the time. No, that didn't happen, right? Japan
Right.
won the gold medal.
Yep.
We won silver twice. So it really has a lot to do, and a lot of people listening, you might have already learned this lesson in life. It's not really what you know, it's who you know. And there's politics involved in everything. That life isn't easy. We live in a fallen world. Um, you know, there's evil, but there's also a lot of good, and that God is in control. And so, what we need to do in softball, the college game is doing it. We need to get that exposure at the highest level and not just for the Olympic Games. So we've got to get a professional level that gets the attention and the respect. Um, that where college players, just like football, they want to get to the NFL, right? We have to develop that professional league, in my opinion, or the professional design, whether it's a pro am tour, whatever it might be. And then we also have to play the political game internationally to keep softball in. And that's going to impact, that's going to impact young girls in our sport in a huge way. So I believe we're blessed to keep it in. I believe that we need to make sure that our athletes are prepared to compete at the Olympic level. And I just, as a player myself, I got so much better as I got older, but I still competed, right? We had the women's major level that kept us fresh and competitive and our skills up. And then when we're with the national team, it got to where we're training for a whole year, right, as the Olympic team. So I think that we need to make sure we do it. I see USA softball also getting more additional teams, so the player pool is bigger, which I love that. And let's not take it for granted that we're in because we lost it. I hope that's woken us up at the administrative level to do what we need to do to continue to stay in. But full circle to be having softball in the Olympics in Los Angeles when in 84 they were denied, our sport was denied to compete. To see us compete in the United States, there's nothing like it in our home country. And I tell you what, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And it's just exciting to see it back in the games.
Well said. Well said. And your teammates, Michelle Smith, has agreed with you about the politics side, in particular with Europe, is an area that I think there's to be the focus she believes in to grow softball there because she feels that's been a roadblock in the past. And then your other former teammate Laura Berg says the talent pool across in the world is better than ever. And you
Oh,
brought
yeah.
it up. I remember we talked right after the last Olympics, Japan, and how they've developed their players through their pro league, and you've mentioned that. And that's why you think you've highlighted what needs to be done here in the States, but all over Canada, everywhere. It's become a more global sport than it ever has been. So,
Absolutely. But Eric, China has dropped their team
right,
or
because
hasn't put as much funding into it because it wasn't in the Olympics.
correct,
So
right.
being announced into the Olympics is going to start all of these countries focusing on it as well.
Jen Salin and Lottie Alameda said the same thing you just said for Canada. That's impacted them as a funding. That's the underrated part about it is if there's no softball in the Olympics, it hurts. There's no funding. And how can you grow without funding? But we could spend hours on all that. Will you be in LA? I have a feeling you're going to be in LA with Laura Berg watching the games. I have a feeling.
Hey, I'd love to be a part of it. Coaching wise, I haven't been, invited to be a part of, any of the coaching staffs, whether junior or, the senior national teams. But, they have a selection of what they want to do, and I'm supporting them no matter what, whether I'm on that level or, whether we're sitting and watching it. It's just going to be exciting, to live it again. And you relive the past, but the past is behind us, right? We need to look to the present and the future. And it's awesome to see that we're back in. And it's one of those things every young girl deserves the opportunity to dream big. And in the sport of the softball, if it's the Olympic Games, playing professional, those options need to be there. And we need to be good stewards of the development of our sport and the development of helping to make their dreams a reality. That's the servant heart that we need, not about who's the one doing it, right? We need to reach out and embrace those that love this game and have the gifts and the talents to help even elevate it to another level. And I pray that our leadership is like that.
That is Liberty head coach Dot Richardson, gold medalist, Olympian. You've named it. She's done it all in the sport here, joining us on In the Circle. Always a pleasure catching up with you. Look forward to seeing you in February when you're making part of your Florida swing in your hometown. But always thank you for always talking to us, always being candor, and talking so many different topics in softball. Obviously, the passion you have for the game, you can hear it there. But always appreciate you taking the time, and thanks for coming on.
Eric, thank you. God bless you and everybody listening. And go Flames! I got to say it. Let's light it up this year.